Hello, Tide fans. Welcome to Tide Talk. I'm your host, Sean Taylor. As you can see, we got a little different setup. You probably should see some familiar faces. To my right, I've got Roy Dixon, good buddy of mine, great Bama mind, been following a long time. To my left is the infamous Maurice Booth.
In a new chair.
In a new chair, that's right. And to my far left is my brother, Sheriff Heath Taylor. We thought we'd do something a little different. Obviously, winning the SEC championship brings some more guys to the table, so to speak. So we're just going to go right at it. We're going to talk about the SEC championship game. I'm going to start to my far left. Heath, what was your thoughts? I know early on you were a little concerned.
After they used the defibrillator on me a couple of times, after a few heart attacks.
After we brought you back to life.
Yeah.
After we brought you back to life.
Listen, I think it was a struggle to begin with. We struggled coming out of the chute. I'm not really sure what was wrong with Tua. He didn't have his best game, but at the end, it's a reversal of last year, and Jalen came in and played an absolute perfect game from that perspective, and I was really proud that he could end the season like that. What he has done this year was pretty special, staying and not leaving, and knowing he was going to be a backup quarterback when he had been 26-2. And so, it was just, as a Bama fan, it was just really great to see him be able to pull that off.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of conversation about that. I'm sure we'll talk about that some. But, Maurice, let me ask you a question. I don't know about you, but for me, it was kind of good to see that Tua is not Superman. He's not perfect.
Well, to his point, he really wasn't perfect. Holding on to the ball too long, throwing it behind the receivers, not leading them in a couple of situations. But, you being a former coach and all of us playing at some point, it's always a learning experience, to which I'm sure he's gone over the tape a few times. And so I think he's picked up a lot from it. And as much as everybody dislikes Gary Danielson and his comments, he was right. The fact that the clock into his head was not going off the other night. It's like you knew good and well that he's got the ball too long. Get rid of it. You can't make a touchdown on every play, throw it away and live for another down.
Roy, what do you think was the biggest factor? We saw that he didn't perform like we were accustomed to seeing him perform, and it's almost bad to – we're certainly not here bashing Tua by any stretch of the imagination, but heck, we hadn't seen it in 12 games.
Man, here's the thing. Going into the second half of the championship game, my thinking is they faced a Tua that they didn't prepare for. We caught them on their heels. He has success. He's had success and been untouchable the entire year. We played the most talented team we've played the entire year, and you know what? Truthfully, like Maurice was saying, I think the Georgia defenders baited him a little bit. He's so good at looking off safeties or whatever. So I think there's a little bit of a chess match where, especially the first interception.
Oh, yeah.
I think he got baited.
Yeah.
And you know what? He's been so good all year long, and let's not forget he's a sophomore, and the internal clock wasn't real good, but. Here again, hopefully it's something he'll grow from.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You come off that huge national championship win, and he played almost well. He did throw an interception early in that game. He threw an interception early in that half.
Right.
Where he came in and played. But to your point, the Joker's been pretty spot on just about all year. That's all people have talked about, really. Look, he's the Heisman front runner.
And being fair to him, when he got hurt, he was playing a lot better. He didn't play so well in the beginning of the game, but as the game progressed, he scored 21 points, or he helped us score 21 points before his ankle gets stepped on. He was getting into his rhythm and was catching the defense trying to trick him a little bit.
Yeah.
So all things being fair to him, I think he was settling down as the game went on. I've heard a lot of commentators say, oh, well, if he'd have stayed in, they wouldn't have won. I don't know how you can say that. We held Georgia to, 30 points. 7 points or 0 points in the second half. I mean, they had very little points, and we scored. Now, Hurts had 2, but Jalen put 21 points. I mean, Tua put 21 points on the board before he got hurt. And I think that it's hard to say we wouldn't have won the game because I think he was settling into a good rhythm when his ankle got stepped on. He had had several good, series of offense. So, I mean, he didn't play like we think, but I think it was coming around when his ankle got stepped on.
Let's go back to, there in the third quarter, he did have a stretch where he was 6 of 9 for about 120 yards. So as much as everybody wants to dog him, the tight end dropped a clear, easy one.
There's way more
there were drops. And I'm not knocking the players, but for everybody to, and I hate to tell you this, I saw a thing that came out today that Tua is not the front runner. It's almost even money between him
and Kyler Murray from Oklahoma.
So,
who we'll get to see.
Yeah,
I mean, listen, don't make no mistake about it. As much success as he's had during the year, we're talking about Tua, as much success as he's had, a lot of that success is coming with some phenomenal catches. I mean, let's look at Henry Ruggs just as an example. I can name a few catches just off the top of my head that were just, ESPN type catches. So he's had some help, and you know what? He needed to have some help this Saturday, without a doubt. I mean, and we got some.
Here's my thing. I think as all Alabama fans, we would have liked to enter the game and won that game convincingly. But for me, if I knew it was going to be a close game, man, I couldn't ask for it in any better way than Jalen Hurts coming in and doing what a good teaching moment for us as fathers, as coaches, as employers or whatever. For it to turn out the way it did is unbelievable. It is. It's unbelievable.
If Hollywood wrote it, you'd go, this is about the cheesiest film I've ever seen. Because it's impossible.
Right. But I'll say this, you know what? I'm the same. I truly believe if Tua would have stayed in the game, we would have won that game. He had caught a rhythm. We were moving the ball. We threw 2 interceptions inside the 5. And listen, Jake Fromm was unbelievable. Steven Garcia, like back in 2010, any quarterback that's beat us, and he was unbelievable the way Fromm played.
Well, that's what I mentioned to you before.
But did they score in the second half?
They scored one touchdown.
Okay. One touchdown. Okay. And so my point is,
so 7 points in the whole second half.
Correct.
So we made some adjustments.
It has taken a superb quarterback performance for us to lose. I mean, go back to Garcia. Yeah. When was that? 2010. Go back to that game. He was phenomenal. The guy was phenomenal. Cam Newton.
Clemson.
Renfro. Watson. Deshaun Watson. We're not even talking about Texas A&M's
Johnny
Manziel. I mean, phenomenal performances by quarterbacks, and from the first 3 quarters had a phenomenal performance. They made all the right calls. We blitz, they dump it down. They see us come inside, they run off. I mean, so listen, as an Alabama fan, I agree, Roy. I would have loved to have seen us come out and just beat the hair off of them. I also, as a fan, am glad to see us be in a heavyweight fight and figure out a way to win.
There's no doubt in my mind that was the second or third best team in the country. And so when you can do that, play your worst game, which I thought was our worst performance.
Without a doubt.
And come out on top, I'll take it.
I mean, I'm sitting there in the first half telling the people that are there and we're watching the game, I'm like, listen, we've played as bad as we can play, and we're still in the football game. Right. I wasn't. I mean, I was upset. I wouldn't say nervous is the right word. I was more disappointed that in the SEC championship game, where we're on this big stage, we didn't come out the way I expected us to come out. But without a doubt, I am glad to see us not necessarily win by 21 points, be in a dogfight, and figure out a way to win that football game.
And listen, I don't want to, I'm not any stretch of the imagination going to suggest that we didn't play good and that's why we didn't win by a bunch of points. Georgia played phenomenal.
Can't take anything away from them.
And Georgia caused us not to play
That's
well.
right. I think they had a lot to do.
And so we didn't do some of the things we normally do, but
Georgia had a lot to do with
You
that.
can't take any of that away from the Georgia fans or the Georgia team because they did exceptional.
Well, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk about that game a little bit more because I still think there are some things to discuss defensively, the things that I think we did make an adjustment. So we're going to take a short break on behalf of Bob English and State Farm. But hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be right back here with Tide Talk.
Savings this big come with their own theme music. State Farm agent Bob English in Phoenix City can help you get all the discounts you deserve with a free discount double check. After all, real savings should fold, not jingle. Get to a better state. Call Bob today.
Hey, welcome back, Tide
Do
fans.
these recline?
You like these? You
Do
like
they-
these
do they
chairs?
recline?
No, they do not recline.
Okay.
But you can
Go
kick
ahead.
your feet back.
Go ahead.
Welcome back, Tide fans. So we were talking the first segment just about some of the game. We talked a lot about the offense. We talked about Tua and Jalen. And yes, I think there isn't any – I don't know that there's anybody, maybe even in the country, because as you guys know, there were a lot of social media posts from schools, from players from different schools, Auburn even, just talking about what a great ending for Jalen Hurts, what a great way to come back, and we all agree on that. I'm going to tell you that one of the big keys for us, and I think Nick Saban even mentioned it, we finally got some stops. I mean, if you take a look, their last 6 possessions were punt, 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 turnover on downs, end of the quarter.
That's where I was getting nervous is the fact, are we going to be able to stop
them
enough to get the ball back?
Correct.
That's what I was most nervous about.
But we made some adjustments. I think our guys felt like they were in a fight. We talked about it the first segment. They felt like they were in a fight.
It was clear in the second quarter where there was miscommunication, and Saban mentioned it coming out at halftime, where there's miscommunication between the linebacker and the safeties on a coverage call when they had a trips to one side, and we didn't know what to cover, and they burned us on it. So, to your point, they just kind of settled down, knew their assignments, and went about their way.
Let's talk about a positive. We made all point after attempts. We did not miss an extra point.
Without a doubt, that's a bonus. I know that that the kicking game has been, skeptical.
We didn't kick it out of bounds on a kickoff.
Actually, we did a really good. They have a really good return special teams. They have a really good return guy, number 4, I believe.
Hardman.
Yep, Hardman.
Yeah, and we did a really good job with him. Roy, what's your take on just one thing I know is in the year I've seen Mack Wilson, he gets so caught up in, maybe just what's going on at the time, whether he'll, overreact just on instinct and miss an assignment or what have you. What's your take on linebacker play in that game?
Yeah, the same thing. Like you said, Mack Wilson's issue has probably been trying to be the signal caller, and the quarterback of the defense has probably slowed his play down a little bit.
It has.
Instead of just being able to react to it. Sean, we obviously here again, we made some adjustments. We're blessed with a linebacker core, and here again, the defensive adjustments we made at halftime, the game preparations that Georgia probably made and getting us on our heels, kudos to the defensive staff and Coach LaPoy as far as being able to make some adjustments.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, the kid that was out the first half for the targeting call, now looking back at it, made a difference.
Yeah.
Maiden.
I mean, he comes in at halftime and look, we don't get burned as much. So it's hard to say that missing him in that first half on that targeting call didn't make a difference.
We've heard, and we're all seem to be knowledgeable Alabama fans. Saban's real quick to say, don't get overwhelmed at the beginning of the game. Let the rhythm of the game figure out itself. Settle down into the game and make your adjustments.
Right.
And you see that's what happened. A big part of the game, offensively or defensively, we go from leading the nation in third down conversions, and we can't convert on a third down. And for them, they're hitting
And on all-
they're hitting 90% of them.
everything.
And so you can't get off the field. Then there's one opportunity, if I'm not mistaken, we have a chance to get off the field, and we rough the kicker.
Yep.
Yes.
Was
Yes.
that our game?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
That's-
it was my opinion, and I think everybody, it was a poor decision to go for the
Correct.
Got
go
a
for the
chance to
punt.
get the ball
Yeah,
at the
two times.
50.
Actually
That's right.
called
That's at the end of the
running
first
into
half.
kicker
End of the first
instead
half.
of
That's right.
roughing it. So that was a
Yep.
Fortunately, it didn't hurt us.
Right.
I mean, they did not take
Yeah, it was
they did
three
not
more
get an
plays and
advantage
punted
from
again.
that.
That's right.
However, it hurt us in the perspective of we potentially get the ball at the 50,
Right.
maybe take a couple shots. You know,
And then get the ball to start the second half.
yeah.
So,
right.
So in that respect, yes. But Maurice, we were talking before the show just about decision making. You know, play calling on our sides. It was a little different
Yeah.
Saturday. That play right there, going after that punt,
Right.
knowing that number one, Jalen Waddle's back there, but
Right.
number two, you're going to get it at worst the 40-yard line.
And Waddle already had a great return.
Yep.
So usually you think things like that are called or get approved by Saban. I don't know in this case. It was just not a very smart thing. Now, going back as far as how this game looked, and we talked earlier, and it's, you know, it's the elephant in the room. Loxley has been interviewed by Maryland. He's the front runner. Where's your attention? Were you able to provide as much attention? And I'm not being judgmental on the guy, but if you take time away from it, from what your preparation, does it hurt you in game time? And you can say that it doesn't. Well, then ask Lane Kiffin a couple of years ago when
That's exactly right.
he was asked to go ahead.
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, I know that I've been an advocate of the play calling all year long. Former offensive coordinator myself. I mean, again, not at that level by any stretch, but I mean, I like to watch and see what they're thinking and if I'm coming up with something similar and that sort of thing. And there were several calls that I just didn't agree with, and I haven't done that all year. I mean, I've really been pleased with our play calling all year long. You know, and the other day, we're struggling for some momentum. I mean, we're down. You know, we're trying to get something going. I believe it was 3rd and 3. We had the ball on their side of the field, and I mean, we just hand the ball off. There was nothing spectacular about it on 3rd and 3, and we needed to get something. You know, and as a matter of fact, I believe we lost a yard.
Yeah.
You know, and there were some things that I just didn't get. And does that contribute? Is
My
Mike
opinion is-
Loxley being pursued by schools? Does that contribute to that?
Well, right now he's the only one that's really, from what I've heard, up for that Maryland job because Mel Tucker's taken the Colorado job, from what I understand. So yeah, if you're in his shoes, getting a nice job, step up, your mind starts going okay, now I got to get a staff together.
Recruiting.
I got recruiting. I got this. I got that. And your mind is taken elsewhere. So, in my opinion, yes, I'm not using it as an excuse, but you know, we get down, first drive, we get down there and we don't get any points out of it. So,
After holding them 3 and out, and I tell you what, I'm thinking after the first series that we're absolutely going to dominate them. I mean, Quinnen Williams looked like the Quinnen Williams that we knew him to be. He comes in, I think he was going to pick from up, slam, throw him back 10 yards.
yeah, I mean, he was making mincemeat of the guard and center.
You know, I think without a doubt with Loxley being interviewed with Maryland and so forth plays a factor, but let's be honest too. We've hit on all cylinders all year and we hadn't had no reason to question any offensive play calling. We struggle a little bit and we start seeing are there, Coach Saban likes to refer to it as clutter. Do we have clutter going
That's
on?
a good point.
But, here's the thing. I think we got inside the 10 one time and it's 1st and goal from the 7 and we're trying to throw it. We all like to coach and quarterback or whatever from the recliners.
It's easy to do it from the recliner, without a doubt.
It is, but I do agree with Maurice. It's hard not to believe that it's not some factor. He's talking about recruiting all that stuff. What about Mama Loxley and kids and all that stuff? There's a lot going on.
Yeah, without a doubt. What's your take on that, Sheriff Taylor? Do you think that was a distraction for Loxley, and will that be a distraction going forward?
I don't know, being honest. I know Mike personally. I know Coach Loxley, and he is 110% Alabama, blue-collar, hard-working, nosed, salt-of-the-earth guy. I don't know that it got in there, but it could have. I mean, everything that these guys have said is accurate if that's what's going on. But I don't know. I mean, you know, I also think that Georgia was throwing defensive looks at us that could have caused the play calling that it did.
Sure.
And, you know, Loxley never stepped on the field, and he never played a play. So he might have, you know, had a different thought process about the play calling, but I don't know.
And I do want to point this out. We did score 35 and threw 2 interceptions inside the 10.
Yeah.
All right,
And
so
we
may be
scored
nitpicking
35.
it.
You're right. You're right.
And threw 2 interceptions and dropped 5.
That's right.
That had we caught those balls that he called those plays, we would have, in my opinion, settled down right off the bat, and the game would have been completely different from a perspective of, you know, those guys that have not dropped those passes all year, they drop them, and now Tua's probably getting nervous. I mean, that's going through his mind. It affected the whole offense, in my opinion. And so, you know, if those things had have changed, would we be talking about, did Loxley get distracted? I mean, I don't think we would have. I mean, I think it would have been a different ball game.
I agree with that.
But I agree with what Maurice is saying. I mean, everybody's pursuing him, and as a human, how can you do all those things and still be focused 100% on the offense?
Right.
It's tough. I don't know that anybody can do it.
Well, at the end of the day, we're Alabama fans that are a little bit spoiled. I mean, come on, let's face it. We're a little
No,
spoiled.
I remember Shula. Sorry.
We're a little spoiled.
Sorry, Mike.
And so, you know, the expectation.
Is that who you played for?
No, I'm a little older.
Okay.
Yeah. He actually played with our mayor, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yes, he beat me up every day.
Yeah. but as I was saying, I mean, we're a little spoiled Alabama fans. I mean, we're sitting here picking that apart, and you're exactly right. Had some things gone a little bit differently, would we be talking about Mike Loxley's play calling? I don't know. Maybe I still would, just because, you know, that's what I like. I like the offensive X's and O's and that sort of thing.
Make no mistake, I wouldn't trade him for anything.
Yeah, that's right. That's
I
right.
mean, this is
Listen,
by
we
far
wouldn't
the
trade
greatest
anybody.
This is the greatest offense we've
Ever had.
ever had.
Ever seen.
Going back to the wishbone, because this is scoring more points and more efficiency in shorter time.
Well, at the end of the day, we got our 27th SEC championship, if I'm not mistaken. Can you correct me on that? I think it's 27, Roro. But so we're going to take a quick break. We got a lot to talk about coming up. Got a big game coming up with Oklahoma. We're going to take a quick break on behalf of Bob English and State Farm. You're going to have to cut that for me. On behalf of Bob English and State Farm, hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
State Farm agent Bob English is here to help protect all the moving parts of your life with auto, home, life, and financial services. Bob English and his team make it simple to bring together what matters to you. Get to a better state. Call Bob today.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. We ended the last segment, but I want to bring back one thing. We're going to get everyone's opinion, what their keys to the SEC championship game were. I think there's some debate, some conversation about what the key play is. So we're going to hear from everybody, and we're going to start with Sheriff Taylor on the far left. Key to the game, SEC championship.
Let me guess.
To me, it's the fake punt. I mean, it's tied up in the fourth quarter. They're on the 50-yard line, 4th and 11. They try to sneak Fields out into the lineup, and we were playing for the fake punt the whole entire time. You saw our defense was out there. We wasn't trying to return it. We wasn't trying to block it. We were playing regular defense. And that call, you know, whether they should have took a timeout regularly punted it, tried to pin us deep. Who knows? We had 3 minutes left, 3 minutes and some change left when that play occurred. Who knows if we'd have drove the length of the field, but instead they didn't do that. They punted, they tried to make a fake punt on 4th and 11, and we get the ball at the 50-yard line. We drive down, couple of plays, couple of passes, 2 runs from the 20 and scores. Jalen runs from the 20 and scores, and we're up by 7 now with 1 minute and 2 left in the game.
Did you hear what Kirby Smart said about that, by the way?
Yeah,
Well,
I
Kirby
did.
said we're not here to tie. We're here to
Other than that,
we're here to
Said it
win the
was
game,
open.
and I get it.
Kirby said
They took too long to snap.
they took too long to snap the ball, that if they would have snapped it when they were supposed to, that
We'd have still got
it
it.
was open. That's what
So-
Kirby said.
Nah.
Sounds like Gus.
I mean, I
Hurry, hurry.
I mean, I understand what he said, and I respect what he said, and Kirby's a great coach. I don't think you get 11 yards if they'd have snapped it when they're supposed to. What they would have gotten is 3 or 4 or 5, and I agree with that. And if it was 4th and 2, it might be a great call. But 4th and 11, I don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't see it if they snap it at the time they're supposed to snap it. I don't think they'd have got 11
It
yards.
shouldn't have been. It just in that moment of the game, in what's at stake, that should not have even been on the table, in my opinion.
And
I don't have a problem with the fake punt. It's the fact that you're going to run Justin Fields out there on a fake punt, as if he's the only scholarship player that can line up in a punt formation and throw the ball.
Right.
You know, you can talk about the timing of the snap or whatever. Hey, we gave him time to, at that point, if we had time to then go cover him, burn a timeout.
That's right.
Burn a timeout. Don't give us the ball on the 50.
How often do you put your backup quarterback
Right.
in as an up back on a punt?
Well, I think we had implemented putting Jalen before Tua got hurt. I think we were doing the same with him and going to disguise him on some things, on PATs and
Yeah.
stuff. But
Well, I just think, to me, that was my deal. And when that occurred, it made you think, now how big is the missed field goal? Because had they been 3 points ahead instead of
You
tied,
could be getting into somebody's key points to the game. So
He just did.
he just
I'm
told-
sorry. I'm
he just
sorry.
stole yours.
No,
I'm
that's
sorry.
all right.
I'm sorry.
You got the handcuffs,
I'm
so you
sorry.
get to call the shots. No, that was mine. As far as I thought, you know, if they made that field goal, now we stopped them. Now we didn't block it, but we stopped them from.
Right. Continue.
Getting
Yeah.
too close.
Man, I breathed after that one because I
He's
thought
probably the
I
best
think
field
that's a
goal
very
kicker
good.
in the
I
country.
think that's a very good point. It's not my key play to the game. However, it was certainly a big momentum swing.
Yes.
Because if that puts us down 3 scores, that changes the complexity of the game. It changes the complexity of our mindset offensively. So that was a big
and they
key
don't
to the
do
game.
the fake punt.
Coach Dixon.
They do what Maurice was
my
talking
biggest
about.
moment. You know, I don't know. Possibly the biggest swing of events was the fake punt, but for me, it was seeing the progression of Jalen Hurts as a passer. Maurice talked about it at break or whatever. You know, we all hear, okay, they're a better passer, and first thing you know, he rolls out to the right and he throws away, and we're like, oh, dear Lord, this is the same Jalen in a big situation. Later on, he rolls out to the right, escapes some pressure, and we're all hollering, run, 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 and he pulls up and checks up with Judy for a touchdown pass. Seeing him develop as a quarterback and as a passer Tua's hurt and can't play in the future. It causes other team to honor his passing ability or whatever. It makes us better as a team.
And Judy was covered on that play.
Oh, yeah. Tremendous
It wasn't
throw.
bad coverage. He was.
It was a
he
dime.
He was covered up.
He threw a
and
dime.
he threw that ball in the only place it could be caught.
And that's going to be a topic that we'll talk about here in just a minute is, will it be Tua or Jalen? How does that affect some preparation for Alabama? But we'll talk about that in just a minute. My key to the game is, I think that everyone's got a great point. I think everybody, those are certainly big plays in the game. But my key to the game is Jalen's first possession when he comes in. You know, it's 3rd and 9. We're down. You know, and we've struggled all game basically with offensive momentum.
And third downs.
I mean, we're 0 for 6 when Tua's in there. We're 0 for 6. So first third down we face is 3rd and 9. It's not like we're getting 3rd and 2. It's 3rd and 9, and we drop back, and it's not a rollout, it's not a scramble, and he throws a bullet
Right.
midfield to Herb Smith for a first down completion. And I'm telling you, that gave us as a team, it gave our offense confidence, it gave Jalen Hurts confidence, and it kind of gave everybody a chance to breathe for just a minute. We're still down, but it was like, wait a minute, we can do this.
Well, I was still nervous about the drops. Was that done?
Yeah.
Was that over?
Was that
out?
over?
Right.
Was that out
That's
of our
right.
system?
Yeah.
So when he threw that bullet, I'm like, oh my God, catch it. And I mean, we looked good from that point on as far as receivers.
Hey, if you go back and think about it, listen, we were just talking about the throw to Judy in the end zone for the tying touchdown. It was a great throw. It was a super catch. I mean, the Joker's all over him.
All over
He
him.
goes up. I mean, big catch at a big time when he had already dropped one earlier.
2.
Yeah.
So, look, make no mistake, from that point forward, I don't know that we dropped another football.
And I will say this, I'd have to go back and look, but I feel like I've looked enough. On the play that Tua got stepped on, he got hurt. He threw in between 2 defenders that I felt like Ruggs should have caught that ball. It was high and he had to jump, but that's a catch. It's
He's been
made,
making that
It's
catch.
been made all year.
Yeah.
And that was with 11 and a half to go in the game
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's like Maurice said earlier. When Tua got hurt, he was 6 of 9 for 120 something yards.
Starting
I
to get
mean,
his groove.
starting to really get in a groove, and it's easy to say, oh, we wouldn't have won if he'd have stayed in there. That's what everybody wants to say, but I don't buy that.
Did you hear Danielson's comments when he came back in and it was having an off night? He referred to it like Rick Barry and some basketballs. He's like, keep shooting.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, listen.
That's exactly what he
So,
said.
yeah.
I mean, listen, as a
And he's got the mindset of, I don't think he has much of a memory. He's like, well, let me just keep
as a
throwing.
former basketball player, the only way to get out of a slump shooting is to shoot.
Keep shooting. And a
Is
quarterback
that when he hit Waddle across the middle
let's
and,
see.
and he got outside, or was that?
I think
was
he
that-
made that comment earlier in the game.
He did.
But
Yeah,
just having the
it was before
gunslinger
that.
mentality just to keep.
Hey,
I
that's
love,
exactly right.
that
Keep throwing
drag
it.
to Judy.
Yeah, I
To
love
Waddle.
Yeah,
Because
Waddle.
you're not going to catch him.
If he gets to the
yeah,
outside.
same thing as the week before.
So that takes us right into, we got Oklahoma coming up, December 29th, which, just so you know, that's my birthday.
Happy birthday.
yeah,
Sure I won't
I
hear
get a
from you.
text after the game when they say
I
that
got
the
you
first
something.
one's on the
It was
first
delicious.
one's on the 29th, first playoff game. He texts me and says, just so you know, that's my birthday in case you want to get me some tickets.
Yeah.
I mean,
So, we talk about speed, we talk about, Waddle. We're facing an Oklahoma team that's got a ton of offensive firepower. As you mentioned earlier, all this time we've been hearing Tua as the front runner for the Heisman, and that's not necessarily the case.
Right now.
And they got a quarterback that's pretty sporty, in Kyler Murray. And so, what's your thoughts? Just what's your initial take on that game? And come, that's a big playoff game.
He's a tremendous athlete. Drafted by the A's,
A's.
9th overall. Phenomenal athlete. He makes plays with his arms and his legs. I'll say this: he's had more opportunities to win a Heisman. His defense puts him under a situation where he's got to be a gunslinger for 4 quarters. You take Tua and put him in that situation, he's probably averaging 700 yards a game passing.
well, that's my thing. Tua ain't played.
Yeah,
Right.
but
I mean,
Let's
and I
compare
said at the
minutes.
beginning of
That's-
the year to you that was going to hurt Tua. He's not going to have the stats because he hadn't played in 4th quarter the whole year.
Yeah.
Even some second quarters.
I mean, how do you compare that?
That's right. And I know we've kind of swung it to talking about the Heisman, and I know Sean's question was about, talking about the game. Obviously, when you're playing one game for 60 minutes and you're playing, Oklahoma's talented. They have offensive weapons, and they hit on a few big plays, and you know what? We have some missed opportunities like we did. Anything can happen. We've seen that throughout our lifetime watching athletics and football and baseball. But you know what? Oklahoma will have to figure out a way to play some defense if they want to have a chance to win.
Maurice, does it scare you that the last time, I shouldn't say scare, but does it concern you that the last time we played Oklahoma was in the Sugar Bowl, I guess back in, 2000?
No, that doesn't scare me. What scares me is Kyler Murray. He is the antithesis of what Nick Saban style defense is vulnerable to. And for everybody that I've talked to that said, "Oh, we're going to drill it," it's like you got to catch somebody to drill them. And as good as Quentin Williams is, you're going to pick in a foot race. This cat scares me because, first of all, it's hard to find him because he is small, shorter, and he's going to be behind those offensive linemen. And then when he gets out, if he breaks out, I know that their defense is ranked 111th in the country in total defense. They're pathetic, and it's a joke that they're in this because of that. But this guy, to me, is the real deal. I hope there's got to be a way to contain him. You want him to stay in the pocket. But if this guy gets out and gets clicking, it could present some problems for us.
You asked a question earlier about linebacker play, and I think this will be the one game that linebacker play shows up being the most important.
I agree.
Yes.
You turn around and you treat them like Tebow back in 2009, 2010, and 8. You know what? You don't get too far upfield to allow them to run, and then you put Moses or Wilson as a spy on them.
It'll be Moses.
And they have to play and make plays.
You're talking about speed, and listen, I agree that the guy's tough. I mean, he's got a very powerful arm. I mean, he's drafted by the A's as an outfielder.
Right.
And he's got a powerful arm. But here's where I think that you're going to see, and everybody says it all the time. We've even talked about it. This is the nemesis to Nick Saban's defense. Is that? But think about that. Even over the past 2 years, we've made adjustments to what we do to
Right.
be able to play that guy, to be able to play against that type of quarterback.
But we haven't faced that type of
Hadn't
quarterback
faced it
in
yet.
the SEC in a while.
Hadn't faced it. I mean, it's tough to say because, they were talking about the Mon kid from A&M. They were talking about the kid
Fitzpatrick.
from. They were talking about the kid from the Hawaiian kid Tioa from Ole Miss as one of those guys. They were talking about a few of those other quarterbacks. They're not Kyler Murray.
The closest thing to him of late, in my opinion, is Nick Marshall. With that type of speed. That's what I'm referring to as speed.
I just think that I have a faith that given a month to prepare,
That was going to be my next comment.
Saban and his staff has been able to come up with a plan, and I hope that we can stick to that plan well enough to account for what Maurice is saying is this guy's speed, because he's great.
And I'm going to say this, Heath. This may be the one game we've all seen us move it up and down the field offensively, and we've loved the high flying Tua throwing it and so forth. But this may be the one game where we all ask where the run game is.
And
we may run through them like wet paper sack and keep Kyler Murray off the field.
I agree. I was thinking that earlier.
what I
Run
What I was
again.
going to say is this is going to be a game where I believe you get to see how athletic Dylan Moses is.
Without doubt.
If you remember, Dylan Moses was he was the spy on Kelly Bryant last year, in the Clemson game, in the first playoff game.
Right.
Dylan Moses is a middle linebacker who's 6'3", 230 pounds, runs a 4.40.
Yeah.
I mean, so this is where I think you're going to get a chance to see how athletic our guys are, because our front four, 3 or 4, will be able to handle the run.
Yeah.
We'll be able to stop the run. We're going to let our DBs lock up. We're going to let our linebackers make plays. And I think this will be a game where you get to see that.
It'll be interesting.
And I think Roy's point is spot on. you run the ball and you keep him off the field
Well,
as absolute most as you can.
I'll agree, because listen, you can't give a guy like that multiple chances, and I think Nick Saban knows that. I think we will have 1 month to prepare. I think if you go look at the history of that, I don't know that there's been many times where Nick Saban's lost
No.
with a month to prepare.
Not with something writing on it.
My thing
Only to Ohio
is not only are you running the football, but if you hit them quick, you have a couple of good series on defense, and then you run the ball and score again. Now you put them a couple of scores behind, and let's face it, they have not faced a defense like Alabama's.
That's right.
And you know what? We make him one-dimensional.
You gotta minimize the chances, and you gotta put them.
Well, it ain't like we don't have enough running backs.
You got to put them in a passing situation. So yes, we've got to score, and then we've got to have a few stops, so that now we're up enough to where they have to throw the football. He can run around all he wants, but they have to throw the football, because the more they run, the more we run, the more time. So it's going to be really interesting to see. A lot of folks are picking Oklahoma. There's been a lot of commentators
Picking them to do what?
picking
Like
them
cover the spread?
picking them to beat Alabama.
What is the spread?
14.
14.
Yeah.
It's 14. But there's a lot of talk, social media. I've heard some people yesterday to say that they believe Oklahoma wins the football game.
Quit
Well,
listening to
Vegas,
Skip Bayless.
Vegas will
He's
take
an
their
idiot.
money.
Yes.
Yes.
So
So
They
will I.
never
Call me.
lose.
it's going to
They
be
never
interesting.
lose.
It's going to be interesting to see. I know that we'll come back. This will be our last show for a couple of weeks. We're going to come back the week before the game, and we'll do a show. And then, of course, we'll have a show following that, and then based on the outcome, we'll continue. So
Well, maybe we should call Coach Loxley and tell him our offensive game.
that's right. Maybe we should do that.
Tell him he can think a little bit more about Maryland. We're going to take some pressure off of him. And
Well, hey, I certainly want to thank you guys for being here. It's been a great show. I certainly plan to have another show. I plan to have
We
you
have to
guys
go
back.
now?
Yeah, we're going to have to end here.
I got nowhere to go.
They're going to be turning the lights off in just a little bit.
It's warm in here.
It is. But thank you so much. Fans, thank you for being with us all year. If you happen to have a question regarding the playoff game coming up or anything about the show, if you got a comment, please call the number right here on the screen. We'd love to hear from you. If you just got a comment about the show, or if you want to talk about the playoff game or the SEC championship game, love to hear from you. Again, just call the number right here on the show. Well, guys, it's been great. Thank you so much. We'll see, hopefully, how this all shakes out in a few weeks, and it'll be my birthday, so if y'all decide y'all want to send me to Miami and watch the game, I'll be happy to go down there and scope it all
we
out
didn't
for
talk
you.
about the Georgia and the 4 spot.
Yeah, well,
what about the fake punt?
we did talk about the fake punt.
We didn't
But,
talk about the favorite. But, I mean, there's a lot of conversation about who should have been in 4th and who should have been there between Georgia, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. And,
Yeah, well,
you know,
I mean, listen, until they finally move it to 6 or 8 teams, there's always going to be that debate.
that's right.
There's always going to be that debate. There's always somebody that feels like they should be in.
Then you'll be talking about 9 and 10.
That's right. So hopefully, we don't have to worry about that. For the past 5 years, we've been 1 or 2, or no, I think last year we were 4.
Yes.
But anyway, well, guys, again, thank you for coming and being on the show tonight. Fans, thank you again so much, and hopefully you'll join me right here next week. I'm sorry, not next week, after December the 29th on Channel 7 and 207, right here with Tide Talk, and Roll Tide.